lions and lionesses. Today, the topic is physical training. And how do you know if your workouts are working? Are you doing enough? And so there is a very simple principle, 4 things you check off in order to know if you challenge your body to the point where there will be change. Given that you have the right nutrition, that's important. But in terms of checking the box of physical training, we'll discuss that in a few minutes. But first, let's look at a little research from the lab of Wendy Suzuki here. And Wendy Suzuki first looked at exercise and how it affects the body, especially the brain. And her lab was able to demonstrate that when you exercise in brief, intense periods, like we're doing in your program, you will increase certain neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, for up to 6 hours after a training session, which those hormones, when elevated, give you energy, improve your attention and focus, and put you in a positive emotional state so that you can be your best. So that's something good, right? Now, you probably knew that already because anyone that exercises usually experiences that, even if they have a terrible attitude. Now, there's other evidence, if you listen to the last audio, that if you have a positive expectation and you believe that you are taking positive action, then you will have an amplified effect, a greater result. So the mind always plays a role in this. Mind affects matter, obviously, if you look at the research. So if we know that, what else does it do? Well, long-term, exercise changes the shape, the structure, and the function, the efficiency of the human brain. It allows you to improve your memory and your cognitive function. If you don't use it, you lose it. But exercise is a unique way of improving your cognitive capabilities. So yet another reason for it. Now, let's talk about something that has been going on for over 100 years. I went back and looked at ads for different exercise devices to see how long this has been going on. But the most recent one is a jaw exerciser. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's this device you put in your mouth like a mouthpiece, and it has like a spring in it, like resistance, and you bite down on it, and the muscle that works is your jaw muscle called the masseter. And they have before and after pictures. Don't always believe before and after pictures. I know I have a lot of them, but they're actually from what we do. They're not from other things. And so you're doing resistance training for the jaw. So does that burn off fat? This is the big lie. The big lie is that you can exercise the muscle underneath fat and it will burn off the fat. That is like turning an apple into an orange. Those are completely separate processes. So if you just did ab exercises all day, and people have done this, right? In fact, there used to be this guy in the gym where I first started training way back in the day, like when I was 14, 15 years old. He would come in the gym every day. He was there for an hour, hour and a half. He just did ab exercises. And this guy was actually pretty amazing how strong his stomach was. But he looked, not to judge him, but his goal, because he told me, was to get this thing off. He goes, no matter what I do, I just can't get this thing off. And this was, I saw him for at least 3 years probably. He was doing these exercises at least Monday through Friday. I didn't see him on Saturdays, but didn't mean he didn't go. So 5 hours to 7, 8 hours of ab work, stomach work a week, and he didn't lose fat. He looked like he swallowed a watermelon. He had a huge belly, and it was hard. The reason is fat, when you store, especially men, store it, it's hard. That means it's intra-abdominal fats, fat around the organs. It's actually very dangerous. And so I was really young, so I didn't offer any advice or anything, but I knew even then, because I'm an athlete, athletes look at things differently because they're looking at it from a performance perspective rather than an aesthetic perspective. And so it's easier, you're not judging yourself, so it's easier to get to the truth. And this man never lost this as long as I saw him. So imagine training for he's remarkably determined, but for 3 years at least, and not seeing a change. There's a point where we got to change our approach and look at it. So his nutrition was not good because he often talked about how much he drank on the weekends. But what it comes down to is you cannot spot reduce. Spot reduction is a lie. And it's been going on forever. There was the Thigh Master with Suzanne Summers. I don't know if you remember these infomercials. It's like a spring. Same thing as the jaw thing, but you put it between your legs and you squeeze your legs together and it works the inner thigh muscles. That's not bad. It's good for your inner thighs. It'll strengthen your inner thighs to a point, but that will not burn the fat off your inner thighs. Absolutely not. It's an impossibility. It's just not the physiology of the human body. It's silly to me. And then there's the ab exercises. Like, how many ab devices were sold on late night television, and maybe still now? I don't know. I don't watch television, but these things were going on and selling like hotcakes. Has anyone ever lost any fat from that? Well, if they did it with other things, like if they were doing resistance training, like you guys do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in cardiovascular conditioning, which is like aerobic exercise. And then they're doing structural balance and mobility work so that you keep everything aligned and you don't get injured. And you prepare yourself for each workout. So you need those 3 types of physical exercise in your program: cardiovascular conditioning, resistance or strength training, and structural balance and mobility. So let's talk a little bit more about this spot reduction thing. So if you work a muscle with resistance training, what will happen? You'll get stronger, you'll build endurance in that. But unless you have the right nutrition and the right amount of rest, and you're working all the muscles in your body, you will not burn fat. You burn fat from your entire body. Now, some places have more fat on it than others. And that tends to come off last. So there is a place where it appears that's not. But when you burn fat, you burn it systemically. So don't fall for any of these rip-offs. It drives me crazy because people are working hard and they really believe in it, and then they're doing they have an ineffective plan. And a lot of people have a great mindset when they first start, and then if they don't see the results, they start to blame themselves, where it was just an ineffective plan. So how do we know if your workouts are working? Did you challenge your body? So that is the overriding principle. When you train, the principle is challenge creates change. The body is always in a state of comfort, homeostasis. It strives for that. That is its goal. So whenever you do something that's uncomfortable, it meets that demand and it adapts to make it easier for next time. So if you ran a mile and it was exhausting, you ran as fast as you could, and you keep doing that on a regular basis, then what will happen is eventually that same speed and that same duration will become easier. And so if you could do 1 push-up and it was like all you could do to do 1 push-up, and you would eventually be able to do 2 push-ups and then 3 push-ups. That's how it is. Consistent challenge. Consistent and relentlessly challenge yourself. It is about the consistency, but challenge yourself just enough to where it's uncomfortable. So there are 4 things we look at. I call this the BOSS principle. So the BOSS principle is 4 success indicators for your training program. So when you work out, you keep these in the front of your mind. So BOSS, B-O-S-S. The B stands for burn. Did your muscles burn? If your muscles burn, you start to produce growth hormone. And when that occurs, your body will produce more, it will start producing lactate, not lactic acid, it's lactate, and then you produce more growth hormone to modulate that. And when that occurs, growth hormone allows you to burn more fat, turns back the clock. It's used for longevity. And so it's a positive effect. And so that's the first thing, burn. And that is what you want to happen when you do the resistance training. The next thing, O, is out of breath. So when you train, you get out of breath, you have limited your oxygen supply. And you work so hard that your body couldn't keep up, and you got out of breath. And that will that'll improve your circulation, that will strengthen your heart, and that will improve your lung function. The next thing, so it's S, and this is sweat. So when you contract muscles, whether it's cardio or resistance training, a byproduct of muscular contraction is heat. And your body must regulate body temperature. So to cool the body off and keep you at a certain body temperature, your body produces sweat. And sweat is one of the best ways to clear toxic metals and pesticides from the body. We did a study where we were in a clinic and we had people in the sauna. This is pretty gross. We measured their their sweat. We had their sweat and we sent it to the lab to analyze what was in it. We found lead, mercury, cadmium, aluminum, and glyphosate, which is Roundup, like Roundup. And we had them do a questionnaire. None of them knew they were exposed to Roundup in any way. And so most likely it was coming from their food. They didn't have it in their daily life that they were aware of. And so that sweating is an incredible way to detoxify, the best way to detoxify, the safest way to detoxify. The last S is important, and this is struggle. When you exercise, you want to take it to the point where you can't keep good form. When you can't keep good form, boom, you challenge yourself, and your body will then have a stimulus for change. Now, as achievers, we tend to overdo things, or we tend to underdo things. What we need is to be consistently challenged the body, giving your best and doing it without fail. So training 6 days a week, short, brief periods, but giving all you got. And so when we're looking at it, I talked to you about this a couple audios ago, about the first week of a program, you give it your best, you note how much you did. How many rounds did you get through? How long did it take you to do a certain circuit? Keep track of that. And then the following week, when you repeat it, you want to surpass that. And if you're surpassing it, you're improving the second week, that means you're recovering. You only get stronger. When you work out, let's make this clear, you damage the body. You make it uncomfortable. And then as a result, if you give it the right nutrients, you get enough quality calories, you get enough protein, you get enough hydration, you get enough sleep, then it will become stronger, you will burn fat, and you will continue to improve. If you keep training harder, doing more and more and more, and not giving it an adequate amount of calories, an adequate amount of protein, an adequate amount of water, and rest and sleep, your body will break down faster, then it rebuilds. So as you train, you damage cells. You got to give it time. You got to be patient and allow it to recover. So you don't have to do more all the time. You got to challenge it. Get quality reps in, quality work, be focused, and get quality nutrients and be consistent with that. That is what it takes. And this is why so many people fail. They don't they'll do the work, the physical work, but they won't do the mental work, which is the nutrition and the planning and preparation. Super important. So there are two other things I want to talk to you about how do you get the most out of your workouts. Because training shouldn't be a thing you have to do so you can look a certain way. That's silly. People will always fail with that mindset. If you're doing it for aesthetic reasons only, you will fail. It's a nice side effect. That's a cool side effect, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it because you don't feel like you're enough, and everyone has that at some level, and you're training, and every day you're judging yourself, you're looking at yourself, and you're saying like, oh, I'm so fat, I'm so this, ew, look at this, and you're pinching parts of your body, you are just affirming that you're not enough. And that, in the long term, will be more destructive than it is productive. So you need a higher purpose, a higher reason for training. And that higher purpose is to connect to that part of you. Each of us has two versions. We have the version we were born to be, which I call the lion or lioness, like who God made you to be and your full potential, and who we learned to be as we were children, trying to make our way through life and not having any way of really doing that, just learning from our environment unconsciously and developing beliefs. And so that is what I call the lamb, because when we're children, we're learning from pain. We're learning from fear mostly. And so, and I could go deep into this, but what it comes down to is you have your best self, that's your true self, and then you have the learned self, which is the fear-based self. There are only two types of emotions, and there's many different degrees of them, which we give different names, which can make it confusing. But there are love-based emotions, which are positive emotions. Those are emotions that expand you, that make you more and moves you closer to your true self, and where you're good to yourself and you're good to others. And then there are fear-based emotions, which is the absence of love-based emotion. And fear-based emotion is where we are in our ego, where it's all about me, where we're selfish. And from there, all decisions we make from that place eventually lead to a place called regret. And so how do we, if we can live completely from the lion or lioness, life is kind of easy, honestly, and it's fun. I'm not kidding you. And then if you live from fear, you live from the lamb, life is kind of stressful. because why do I say a lamb? So I grew up with a lot of animals, and I remember one time we had a lamb that I don't know how we got it. His name was Houdini, but he was not magical at all. And we had so many different animals, like you name it. Eventually, I would feed them all. So when you feed an animal, within a few days, or a week max, they just come to you because they know they're being fed. They learn. Now, a lamb never comes to you. And what do I mean by that? Well, in order for me to feed it, I had to give it a bottle. I had to tie it to a tree and chase it in circles until the rope got so short it couldn't go anywhere. And then I would hold it and force feed it. Otherwise, it would die. It would just not eat because it was that scared. Now, a lamb is a baby, so it's innocent, still learning. When it grows up, it becomes a sheep. And a sheep is controlled by a guy with a stick and a dog, basically. Now, why do sheep live in a flock? Because they love their friends and family? No. So when a predator comes, like a wolf or coyote, they fight to get to the center so that they don't get taken because they're slow. They're not powerful. They don't have fangs. They have no really way to protect themselves. So they are a creature of warning. They warn us that when we live in a fear-based state, there's nothing wrong with sheep or lambs, but that they are who they are. That is their nature. Our nature is not fear. But when we go into fear, we make mistakes. We treat ourselves poorly. We treat other people poorly. We make poor decisions. We are destructive. This is where we sabotage ourselves. And this is the simplest way I can speak of living greatly, is this metaphor. And we can go real deep and make it really confusing, but you don't need to. But the way you live as your true self is by training, dedicating a part of your day every day in the morning, ideally, so that you can carry that with you the rest of the day. Just say like, hey, I'm committing this time to be my best, to connect to that part of me that is unstoppable, where I can serve at my highest level. And it is done. And then you train without hesitation. And you do these things that I mentioned in the workouts. Like you smile, because that changes your physiology. When you start smiling and you're doing things that are very difficult at the same time, your brain starts to link up. Hey, I enjoy challenges. Hey, bring a problem my way. I got this. I'm a leader. I'm not going to fall apart like other people. I'm here to serve. I'm going to crush it. That's what this is all about. So we can get all in. People are obsessed with the way they look. Like all the marketing, everything on social media is about like, hey, you're not enough unless you weigh this much or wear these clothes or do this or that. That's all horseshit. You just got to let go of all that stuff. And if you're looking at social media all day, you might want to reconsider. I mean, you're a grown-ass person. You make your own decisions. But my suggestion is don't put in bad stuff. Don't put in bad information. Your brain is processing all this. And it's a ratio of good stuff to bad stuff. Information that expands you and information that constricts you. Just think of it that way. But before I go, let's just review. How do you know your workout's working? 1, is it burning? Are the muscles burning? If so, great. O, out of breath. Are you trained to the point where you're out of breath? That's important. S, sweating. Are you training? Are your muscles contract so much that they're producing heat and you got to cool off? You're sweating. You're moving toxins as well. And then the final S of boss, struggle. Challenge creates change. Without the challenge, there is no change. Then you give it the nutrients. You give it the rest. You expect the results, but you enjoy every moment and you train for a higher purpose. You train for that purpose to be your best so you have a life of no regret and you can serve at your highest level. That's it, my friends. You tap into the real you, but you have to retrain yourself. The way you retrain yourself is you wake your ass up in the morning and you say, I am here for a reason and a purpose. And it's bigger than my moods. It's bigger than the difficulties of the day. I am here to live like a lion, not the fear of a lamb.